I remember just starting at Aplin, talking to Derek, and after we'd go over something I'd done, or we'd learn something together, we'd say how excited we were after, and how that excitement would fire us up to go do the next thing. And so he was talking about that from the mentor perspective, and I was the mentee. And now being the mentor, I see that from the other side, and how it's exciting to see these people that we're teaching learn something and see something click, and we learn a lot from them too. And I think it's just interesting to see the other side of it, and it's the same type of firing up that you get both ways.
Welcome back to the workshop presented by Aplin Martin. On today's episode, I'm joined by design engineer Francesca Cusati and project engineer Meghn Khurana. In this episode, we dive into the beginning and current day affairs of their professional careers within the firm. Francesca and Meghn detail their journey from school to fresh graduates and now future leaders mentoring Aplin's next generation. It was awesome to hear Francesca and Meghn share their respective paths and stories to get to where they are today. I hope you all enjoy. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the workshop presented by Aplin Martin. I'm your host, Julian Cesario. Today's guests are two of the brightest and upcoming engineers from our Surrey office, Meghn Khurana and Francesca Cusati. How are you both today?
Great. Doing well. How are you?
Awesome. I'm great, thank you guys. Thank you for joining me today. First question, I just want to get to know a little bit more about you guys. Can you give me a little bit brief background? Where'd you go to school? Where'd you guys grow up? Were you always based in BC? Were you born elsewhere?
Yeah, so I grew up in North Burnaby. Pretty much my whole life, still live there. I went to a high school in East Vancouver, and then I went to UBC for my 4-year science degree, and then I went to BCT after that for my civil engineering degree.
Awesome.
So I grew up in Merritt, BC, small little town, and then I moved to Kelowna when I was 10, and then from there stayed in Kelowna and went to UBCO, and I've been working at Aplin since, so I've been in the industry for 6.5 years.
Very cool. So you guys were always both born and raised in BC, went to school in BC. Did you guys ever think about traveling elsewhere for school, or was it always just home here?
It was home here, I think. I already had family and friends going to UBC at the time too, so it was felt the most natural for me.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was debating between University of Calgary, but then I decided to stay home. It's just easier.
Okay.
Save money on rent.
Student
and
life,
whatnot. Yeah.
Why Calgary, out of curiosity?
I think I was ready to move and ready to get a change of scenery. Calgary, I know Calgary had a good engineering program, so and it was also close to home, so I was accepted too. So they UBC and University of Calgary were the two where
Both were two pretty good options for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just between UBC and Calgary, so UBCO just worked out being home.
Awesome. Now, both being in the engineering field, how did you guys both get involved in it? Was it something you've always wanted to do? Was it something that was influenced upon you guys? There's always some sort of little event kind of in somebody's life where they're like, okay, I actually do like numbers and I love science. So what was it for both of you?
For me, I always loved numbers. I always loved science in high school, so going into a science-related field always felt like the right fit for me. So I went into sciences right out of high school at UBC and thought that was more of the safer route over engineering, even though I really loved the engineering field. So I went there, and then, in my post-third year summer term, I worked in the marketing department of a water modeling software company. And so a lot of our clients were engineers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so I was like, I think I want to go into engineering. And I felt that was right. So I was like, okay, applied for school right away, and then started right after when I graduated from UBC. And
was there somebody that influenced you there that was that you thought, you were like, wow, I really enjoy this and it's something I could see doing moving forward?
Honestly, it was kind of just deciding what do I want my day-to-day job to be, and then my mom always pushed me to go into engineering. Not push me, I shouldn't say that. She's very math-oriented minded as well, so she kind of was like, oh, maybe try engineering, and so that kind of pushed me into that.
Cool. Meghn, yourself?
For myself, I have an older brother that was in engineering. I think when I was in high school, I wasn't super sure what I wanted to do. I had a passion for health and fitness, and then I liked math in school, so I was always trying to figure out what to do between those two fields. And I guess my brother basically convinced me to go get into engineering. It made more sense, and I could always pursue my passions on the side. So.
And how did that conversation go? Was there any pushback by you? Were you like, but I really do like hiking and all of that as well?
No, I think it just made sense. Like I really did love math in school, and so it was either kinesiology or something in that department, and that was 8 years long or whatever it may have been, or it was engineering and that was 4 years. So,
so you're like less school,
yeah. So like sign me up. So that's basically how I got into it.
Very cool. So now, what position do you guys both currently have, and how long have you been with Aplin, or in the engineering field, I should say?
Yeah, I think our role is pretty similar.
Yeah.
We're project leads. We, lead the design and coordination of most of our projects, interact with some consultants, the city, clients. Yeah.
And then we also take care of the financial side of projects. I think the difference between Fran and I is maybe more so the type of projects we do.
Okay.
My projects are mainly high-rises, industrial, and schools.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say mine's more of like townhomes, high-rises as well, industrial. Yeah.
Okay.
So similar, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
And you guys mentioned before to me off here that you guys are on different teams and you both have different bosses and stuff like that.
Yeah, so my project manager is Dawn and hers is John.
John, yeah.
Very cool. Now, how long have you guys both been in the field?
So I'm full-time almost 5 years, and then I did a couple summer terms at Aplin prior to that, too.
And I'm 6.5 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So now I want you to go back to the time when you were first either in school looking for jobs, or just like you mentioned before, you were debating what field you wanted to go to, like yourself. So you did a couple summer internships. Mm-hmm. How did you find out about Aplin as a younger person trying to discover what they wanted to do with their career and the rest of their life?
Well, at BCAT, they have an industry project that you do in your second year, and you have to get a sponsor who works in the industry. So my sponsor, who I met through a family friend, was Derek Hull. So I worked with Derek on my industry project, and, he was great, which is, self-explanatory. He's great. And I remember being in school, and all other students were talking about how their industry sponsor wasn't replying to them, and it was taking days to respond, and Derek I'd be like, I don't get it. Derek responds to me almost instantly. So I was like, I feel like this is a good fit, and he definitely sold me.
So how closely would you work on him? You mentioned an industry project back in school, you said?
Yeah, so it's project that your sponsor gives you,
Okay.
like a real life project that they would be working on, and you just do different components of it. So you kind of do the design, do a presentation, and then you actually present it at an industry night. And so Derek came with Chesley, who's another project manager.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it was actually really cool. And now I'm doing that, and I'm actually sponsoring a student this year too, so it's kind of cool to do it.
You're doing full circle.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say, how do you have one specific memory about that other than him responding right away when other
Honestly,
people were?
that's what it was.
It
Was just great, and he would be open. I knew he was busy, and but he always took the time to make an effort to, respond to my emails and answer questions. I really felt that he cared about it. So I thought that could probably translate into a good work environment.
And yourself?
So for myself, again, I was finishing off university. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I had co-ops and whatnot, but I just didn't feel like those were long-term opportunities for me. It just wasn't a fit, I felt. And my dad actually had a development project with Corey Barker in Kelowna at the time with Aplin. And I was just hanging around the house one day, and I saw Aplin drawings on our dining room table.
What are these funky little napkins that we're having this night? Yeah.
So I was looking at them, and I was just so intrigued by them, and I wanted to know more about it. And so I went to my dad and was like, "Oh, what are these? Why have you never told me about these?"
Yeah.
He started telling me about it, and then I started looking more into land development, and it just got to a point where I wanted to talk to Corey. So I just called Corey and asked him if he had any opportunities, and sure enough, he did. So at that time, when I was graduating, he was back in Vancouver.
Okay.
So I drove up to Vancouver, had an interview with him and Ryan Wood, and now here I am.
Now the rest is that's very cool. So now, again, you guys both work out of the same office. How long have you guys both known each other then for?
Since we started,
I
I guess.
I would say so.
So was the hiring kind of, did it go, like, did you guys cross over at all, or was it within a year or so, or? Because I know you mentioned before also that you guys, like, sat beside each other
Yeah.
and such, so you guys have kind of grown up together, I guess, in the field, basically.
Yeah, we sit close, well, next to each other now, but like we always kind of did when we first started too. So it was, you know, I would go bug her. We were on different teams at the time still, but we would just kind of bug each other with questions and kind of, you know, learn from each other a lot, especially in the early years.
Yeah. Fran, did you have a co-op term before I started? I think
Yes,
so, right?
I did.
Yeah, okay. So
but I was sitting downstairs.
Yeah, okay.
with I was doing a lot of construction administration when I started too,
Okay.
so I was kind of with that team, not so much on the.
Yeah, so
Sorry, what
You're
is
picturing?
downstairs? Yeah, because I'm thinking like
It was me.
It's dark. It's
Boxes in the
yeah.
Honestly, kind of what you're picturing. No,
Okay.
no, it was just like we were busy and there wasn't a lot of, you know, desk space upstairs, so I sat downstairs with Matt Jansen, who was running one of the construction administration projects for one of Derek's big projects.
Okay.
And so I was working with him a lot, so there was 2 desks like down there.
Yeah.
And so it was basically just him and I in IT.
yeah, so I feel like because Fran had a term on me basically, I would always go for her.
Okay. That's funny. No, because basically that's kind of what I wanted to get into, right? You guys kind of joining at the same time and being friends and still being here, right? So what kind of impacted having that working relationship being between yourselves and working with Aplin? Like, what kind of impact do you think that Aplin provided with you in order to get to where you are right now?
I mean, when I officially started full time, there was quite a few of like a group. I think there was almost 10 of us that started at the same time. Of, you know, for year 1 EITs. This was, I guess, after you, but and so it was kind of nice just starting at the same time and learning the like transition between the school life to work life and learning together. And you always felt that there was someone to kind of like bounce an idea off of if you weren't sure. It can be nerve-wracking at the beginning, right? You're you know, at a company, maybe some of them didn't do a summer term here too, so you don't know as many people. So it's nice having someone or other people to go.
I feel like Aplin's a very fast-paced environment. You have like, I think a lot is thrown at you at a young age, and you have to learn how to be efficient, have good time management skills, communication skills, organization skills, like all these things. Like they're all crucial in order to be successful. And I think all this job like really tests you at a young age to it just tests you in all these areas, and you build on them very early in your career.
Yeah. So would you say then the support system then, whether it was like your peers basically like you two at the same level, as well as maybe there are other people as well, a little bit older than you guys at the time, would you say that that was definitely a benefit to helping to get where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. Like there was, you know, my project manager was Derek Hall at the time, and I mean, I learned most of what I know from him working directly with me on things. But there was a lot of other senior designers that we would on our team that we would lean and learn from as well too. So there was always somebody I felt like I could, and actually would want to take the time to sit down with you and teach.
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing.
I would say this the same for me. Like John Benny was my project manager, and I would always go to him, and he's always available. Like it was always amazing to me how they're so busy yet they will still make time for you. It's great.
So maybe a hard question: would you guys want to work on a project together, or no? You two? Do you think it would work?
Yeah.
Or no?
That's a good idea. No, yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun.
I just don't know how that would work, because like we were both the same.
We do this
role,
similar
right?
role.
Like, so,
No, I feel like between the two of you, you'd be able to figure it out, the chemistry and all
Yeah.
that.
I mean, like we both do the design, kind of.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, we could
Okay.
trade off. We'll just trade off some of those two coordinations. Sometimes we'll do design.
Yeah. So now, going back to that, what were some, when you were coming up, I know you guys mentioned before the time management and all of that, were there any specific major obstacles or challenges that you can remember coming up in those years where you're like, wow, this is like, if I don't figure this out, it's going to be tough for me to succeed in this field specifically?
I think for me it was more just the time I spent on completing tasks or doing a design or something like that. I was very concerned with, oh, I need to get this done quickly. Like my project manager's waiting for this. Like it needs to be done. I was very consumed with that, and maybe a little bit hard on myself in that way, and just worried about what that would look like and wanting to get it done instead of just, taking a step back and being like, I need to learn this. This is new. and thinking about that. So I think like that's something that I try and be conscious of now when I'm like mentoring people, that like be very explicit and say, it's okay if this is going to take you a while. You're learning. Like, don't feel like you have to rush through something because I need to get it done. Just because I know I was struggling with that too. So.
Yeah, because again, work is a lot different than what school.
Yeah, it's totally different, and you're adapting to this new environment, and you could feel a little bit of pressure from that. Not that I was getting it from my manager or anything like that. It was a pressure I was putting on myself. But we hire people who are very determined and hard on themselves and want to be very dedicated to their work. So you can kind of get caught up in that. So I think it's good to just mention, hey, don't worry about it. You're learning. It's okay.
I agree with that. I've definitely experienced something similar to that too. But like you said, like, we're determined people and we want to do our best. So it's hard to not get caught up in that. Me personally, though, it was CAD. I did not have any experience in CAD, even like basic commands. I
have knowledge on my resume.
Knowledge.
I know what the program is.
I don't know if I had it on my resume. I'm not sure if I did. I don't think I did. But yeah, so it was a very steep learning curve for me, for sure. And then just on top of that, like, our school is not very focused on land development at all. So I don't think any of our school is really focused
there was
on
a couple courses I'd say, but
okay.
they weren't. I mean, you learn. I think we've all learned most of what we know on the job.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like, so that's what I actually do. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah.
So UBC was very focused on structural transportation. Like, there was no introduction of land development. So it was like a combination of learning CAD, learning this job, and it was a lot at once for sure. But I ended up taking courses in CAD like instantly. I felt like I needed to do that because, I mean, like, my boss was there, obviously. I could go for help, but it's not. Like, for CAD, you can't keep going to them every 5 minutes for like a basic command.
Yeah,
and that's why we would rely on each other. CAD is like a big thing.
CAD is a
yeah. I think specifically with like CAD tips and tricks was like a big hot topic, like with our peers. So we're kind of nerdy like that.
So yeah, I think that was my biggest obstacle for sure.
Now, for that, was it something that you did externally when you went to someone, you're like, hey, by the way, I think I should do this, or you're like, you took it upon yourself to be like, in order for me to advance further?
Yeah, and I wanted to be better. I wanted to make sure I could do my work properly. So I went to Ryan Wood at the time. He was our branch manager, and I asked him if I could take some sort of course, and he helped me find a course, and yeah, we went from there. That's
awesome that you had the wherewithal to actually like be self-aware, like, hey, by the way, I'm not just gonna be able to learn it overnight, sort of thing. I have to do something outside of my normal work requirements, basically, to get that.
Yeah,
that's great to hear. So now that you guys are a little bit more advanced in your career, like you said, 5 to 7 years of experience, and now that you said you're going to be sponsoring as well, how has your mentality changed to today's work from when you first started? And being a coach, being a mentor, how is like your view on work changed? Having a team, basically.
Yeah, I remember like just starting at Aplin, talking to Derek, and after we'd go over something I'd done, or we'd learn something together, we'd say how like excited we were after, and how that excitement would fire us up to go do the next thing. And so he was talking about that from the mentor perspective, and I was the mentee. And now being the mentor, I see that from the other side, and how it's exciting to see these people that we're teaching like learn something and see something click, and like we learn a lot from them too. And I think it's just interesting to see the other side of it, and it's the same type of like firing up that you get both ways.
Yeah. So it's like motivation.
It's
motivating
for you
to see that somebody else can eventually fill your role and surpass it.
Yeah, it's exciting seeing people learn and working on things together and making submissions, and it's really a team. Yeah.
I think for me, it's just reflecting on my challenges and reflecting on, like Fran had mentioned earlier, about being hard on yourself, and just kind of relaying that to the mentees, and just because, I mean, like, when you start, it is a lot, and you are hard on yourself, so just kind of giving them reassurance that it's okay, like like you're gonna be uncomfortable, you're gonna feel all these emotions.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard, but you'll get through it, and it's okay.
Yeah. Which I think we both do is like check in on your people,
Yeah,
right?
for
Like
sure.
just be like, hey, how's it going? Like, how are you
Yeah.
doing today? Like, what's your workload like? Is this good? Like, just tell me. Don't feel like you have to hold back and not say anything.
Yeah, because especially when you know when a difficult task is being handed down to them.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I would struggle with that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want you to have to, if I'm not stressed, then you shouldn't be stressed. Sort of
Exactly.
thing, right? Like, I think that's super important. So even just like, hey, let's go for lunch or whatever, just like a quick checkup like that. Right?
Yeah.
So-
Or like, what'd you do this weekend? Like, we have team meetings weekly, and the first thing we do in the meeting is everyone shares a highlight from their week.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a low light if you know too well. Sometimes it's a pre-light, so it's something that you're looking forward to. There's different things, but it's kind of just a nice thing to just, you know, we work half remotely too, right? So you
Yeah.
don't get to see everybody all the time, so it's a nice check-in.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought that up because I feel like, again, like you said, like with everything being more remote these days, like there is a little bit more disconnect. Even though you are working together, there is a little bit more of a mental disconnect from your team. It's like, oh, here's the task, get it done, move on. Sort of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Especially with new hires and when they're starting and we're not always in the office, like you don't want to make them feel isolated
Yeah.
too. So.
Cool. So not everything is obviously easy with the job. Like you guys mentioned, there's a lot of different challenges and stuff like that. Getting to where you guys are, but now as the actual mentor and having the younger people work underneath you, what would you say is the most difficult part about your current position?
That's a good question. The most difficult part of our job, I guess. Some of this will be cut out, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I think the hardest thing is probably balancing both completing your work and then also teaching your mentees. Like, obviously, we have a lot of work that we need to do, but I'm sure Fran's the same. But we want to make sure we're giving all our attention that we need to our mentees. So just that balance of like trying to do both things. Like, I really noticed that during the day, it's the hardest thing to get your own work done.
It's a lot of yapping that can go on. Trust me, I have the same thing.
Like, I have
Yeah.
a client sometimes, and I'll be talking to her, and I'll tell her, like, oh, yeah, I'll get that to you end of day. And she'll be like, end of work day or, like, end of day.
Yeah.
There's a difference between 5 o'clock, between 4:30 shop and 8:30
Yeah.
shop. So
And it's just because, like, it's so hard to get things done during the day that sometimes, like, it does happen after hours, and you just get the most work done after hours. So I feel like that's the biggest challenge for me, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I find that blocking out times in the day, like scheduling a meeting with my mentee to go over something, or if they have questions, and you know, asking them, hey, when you do have questions, maybe try and group them together so we can
Yeah.
set out like an hour period where we can go over that, right? As opposed to little questions here and there.
Yeah.
And I think they like that too, and it sometimes helps them learn at the same time, because they might think of a question instead of asking me right away. They'll like think on it for a bit and read something else and be like, oh, I just answered my own question.
Yeah.
Too. So
I agree with that. I feel like
Yeah.
like John used to tell me that all the time too, and it's true. Like, you write a question down and then you think about it, and then sometimes you do end up
Figuring
answering
it out.
your own question.
Yeah. I like that too, because then it also keeps your focus, right? If you just do 15 minutes straight instead of 3 multiples of 5 minutes, right? Like,
Exactly.
do that, let's lock it down, and then we can, that way it also helps keep everybody's focus, right? So, now that you guys have always been with Aplin, or you've done summer terms elsewhere, did you always envision being just at one place up to where you are now in your career?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, tell us how you really feel. Go ahead. No, okay.
Yeah.
No, I always, I don't know. I feel like when I was younger, I would hear people say, I've been at this company for 8 years, and it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't really understand how you could stay somewhere for so long.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in it, like, I get it now. Even especially engineering, our project cycles are so long, right? Like, a project cycle can be 8 years. So I feel like I understand how it can happen, and time flies. Like, even this year, it felt like we blinked and it was over.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see how it happens, but no, I did not envision that.
Yeah, I would say the same. I don't think I did either. I did have family members who were at the same company for quite a long time too, so I did see that side of it, and I heard both the pros and cons of each.
Yeah.
But I think it was really like, if I didn't like the people I was working with and the types of work I was doing, that I would have left. But that obviously wasn't the case, and I think it's really the people that we work with that really kept me here.
That's the biggest thing, is because work's going to be work, but if it doesn't feel at least half like work
Yeah.
half the time, then it shouldn't feel that bad, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody likes to work, right? Like, but as long as you can at least enjoy it most of the time or half the time with the people that are there, then it
Yeah, and we do a lot of like lunches together in the
Yeah.
office, and we go to work at like industry events now too together. So there's a lot of fun things that come out of it where you get to know people more, and like where we became friends through work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly, and that's almost an added, because a lot of times too, you probably heard stories even from my friends that have started work before me, where they go and it's like, oh, John did this day
Yeah.
or whatever, and it's just like, oh, if I end up being like one of the, like, I never want to be like, have to go in and like dread having to talk to
Yeah,
people, right?
yeah.
What's been something that has surprised you most with your career so far?
I wouldn't say I've been surprised about anything. I think going in like through school, we knew it was hard. Like engineering, it's not an easy thing to learn, and you know it's going to be challenging at times. But yeah, I think we kind of like working together, and it helps you get through that. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily say I'm surprised by anything either. I'm not sure.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay. What's been your favorite project that each of you worked on, and why?
Probably my working on a 37-acre single family townhome development that involves like a detention pond design and a kilometer long sanitary sewer upgrade, or new sewer, sorry. And so it's kind of like, it's something I've been working on for the last 2 years now, and we're getting into detailed design, and it's very interesting to see like all these things that I've learned over the past like almost 5 years now coming and all being combined into one project. It has so many levels of coordination. There's so many levels of different types of design, like a pond design, things like that. And it's exciting to see this one come to life. And I was listening to John and Dawn's podcast actually, and John mentioned something about it being a privilege to work on some of the projects that he's working on, and it kind of like in my head it sparked like this one. Like I feel very privileged to work on these type of like big area opening projects. So yeah.
Because then they do become some sort of a landmark in the place where you live, right? Where you're actually able to drive through and be like, that one's mine. Or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So,
For me, it's the project's called Sky Living, and it's in Surrey City Centre. And I didn't sign and seal this one, but it was the first one where I had more of a leadership role on it. So I was completing the coordination for it, providing direction to one of our very talented engineers, Omid. And it was just, I think it was very well done, and it's become a project that we reference all the time, like going forward on our newer projects. And not only that, we built a great relationship with our client, and it's one of those relationships that that motivates you and excites you, and you want to provide good quality, and it was just overall just a great project. It hasn't gone to construction yet, but it likely will in the next year or so.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it to be fully built out. And
it's a lot of give and take, where it's like you can see the large amount of work up front, but then the reward towards the end, when you start to see that, okay, we are going to be getting approval, and then eventually when it is constructed, how good it's going to be.
No,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. You mentioned before that you guys have done a lot of events, or you've gone to a lot of events, whether it's YBG, whether it's company, whether it's networking. What's been each of your favorite events that you've attended so far?
I think it's usually for me like our end of year event. So like we're going tomorrow actually to like this ping pong bar with all of YPG, and then last year we did bowling, and I feel like it's just a good, like it's usually at the end of the super busy season, which is right now, and we're kind of all together like as young professionals and just hanging out and kind of celebrating the year. So to me that one's usually the end of year is my favorite one.
I really enjoy the lunches we do at the end of the year with all our main clients, and then also the hockey games are super fun too. Taking our clients out, and sometimes we have a after get together with them too, and it can be a lot of fun. Like, I really do love building those relationships with our clients. It makes the job a lot of fun.
Yeah, getting to see people outside of the work environment and then getting to know them, like what works best with them, right?
Yeah.
Because you see certain quirks about certain people, you learn certain things, and it's like, okay, now I can actually translate that into the work environment.
And it gives us something else to talk about with them instead of,
I think it makes such a difference too, like having that type of relationship with a client. Like, even I was mentioning this client for the Sky Living project, like they hosted a lot of hockey games too, and so we had a lot of events with them, and it makes work fun, and it's like easy to communicate between each other, and it does make an impact, I think.
Yeah, it adds a different dynamic, I guess you could say, to your relationship versus like, all right, it's going to be done Friday, and then
yeah, totally.
So, if you were able to work remote anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I think mine would be south of France, in Nice. I went there a couple years ago, and I really loved it. Love the Mediterranean Sea, love the mountains, and it seems like it's livable. I don't know if it is, but I mean, I thought about it when I was sitting there. They have this, it's called the Promenade des Anglais, and it's just a route that basically I think it runs through this, like, it runs along the water for sure, and I think it goes farther into the city too, and it was just like, I was just picturing myself running along there.
Like, this wouldn't be so bad.
So that would be mine for sure.
Yeah, I think mine is in Europe too. I would go with Italy. I'm a little biased because I'm Italian.
I was going to say easy answer.
Yeah, I was like, I was going to say
Italy. It's a no-brainer for me because I also have family there, and I love it, and so I feel like I could see myself living at least like for a month or two of the year working there. So,
any specific location in Italy, or just generally?
I really love Florence.
Okay.
Florence, it was just the architecture there for me, and like the like Tuscany, all the wineries and things like that. It's beautiful.
Awesome. I'd like to end off with this one. Going back again, thinking to where you are now, to like you being a sponsor and you guys having your own team and working with students. Think back to when you were in their shoes. What would be the one piece of advice? I know you guys both mentioned before, don't be too hard on yourself. Let's try not to repeat that one.
Yeah, of course.
What would be any advice that you would give to your younger self, looking for a job, just starting out, being that fresh-faced student, getting into the work environment?
I think mine would be trust your gut. I think I didn't do that originally, and I wish I did, because if you feel something's right, or you feel the people are right somewhere, maybe the job industry that you're going to go into is right, like, and just don't be afraid to not jump on that and really explore that. It's your time to kind of like see what you want to do with your life. Go shadow people in the industry, see if you like their day-to-day life. Really trust what you feel is right, and don't second guess yourself too much.
Awesome.
So mine is one that my former boss, Corey, told me, and when I first started, and it was basically like, you get what you put in. And I think like that really stuck with me, and I think it was really true for myself too. Like, you could be the smartest person, but at the end of the day, it's how much work you put in, and like hard work. I think hard work definitely rules. Knowledge and just how smart you are. So you put your heart into it, you work hard, I feel like you'll get to where you want to go.
Yeah, hard work and character, I think.
Exactly,
especially are two things in this industry that a lot of people, they're like, oh, I just want to punch in numbers in this.
Yeah.
You can, but it's the extra stuff that people don't see, I think, are the bonuses.
Yeah.
So, well, no, that was awesome, guys. That's all we got for today. I want to thank Meghn and Francesca again for joining us on today's episode, sharing your knowledge and experience. Thanks to our listeners, and stay tuned for the next episode.